since the election started, there was no anti-incumbency. So that is the reason it's not surprising. But yes, there was BJP was claiming they will cross 300 and all that. But still, they are as of now, we see the trends. They have crossed the majority mark. I mean, they are ahead of that. Meaning at least they are reaching more than 250.
So, Bhupen,
it's not surprising.
what do you think has actually worked for the BJP in this election?
Actually, the main thing is that
sorry, Bhupen, we lost you for a bit there. Can you please dial back and just repeat what you were saying?
Yeah. Actually, I was saying the first thing is, the main thing is there was no anti-incumbency against the government. People were not vocal against BJP at large. They were not speaking like they don't like BJP and all that. They did very bad and all that. We did not hear that from a large section of people here. The main thing which we see is, the first thing is law and order. Across the state, we traveled and we talked to the people, and people, the first thing they say is law and order, security. They are saying security is good. I mean, people are, feel safe in this government. So that was the main thing in favor of Yogi government. The first thing. And the second was ration in rural areas, especially. The free ration scheme, which actually started in December 21. So that free ration scheme, the two key factors, and obviously polarization actually happened during the campaign. It was there a bit earlier, but during campaign, it actually worked in favor of BJP. The polarization, especially not only in Eastern UP, but also in West UP, as we see the trends are showing. We saw that whether the Jat will vote or
that's
not.
Right.
And all
that's
that.
right. That's right.
But still,
the BJP's allies also doing quite well. Bhupen, Apna Dal and Nishad both doing very well.
Yes.
So
yes, Apna Dal is,
Go on. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, Apna Dal and Nishad both. Actually, Nishad had just one seat in last election. They had just one MLA in 2017, and Nishad were not aligned for BJP. Last election, Apna Dal was. Apna Dal is still leading on 13 seats. It's big. So they are also, obviously, they are helping BJP, and they are getting help from BJP as well, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah. Bhupen, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Samajwadi Party, but before that, I want to go to Uttarakhand. Avnish, these trends, I mean, there was a general impression that we will probably have the Congress replacing the BJP, as has been the trend in Uttarakhand for 20 years. We alternate between the Congress and the BJP, but that is not happening. And despite three changes of chief minister in the 2017 to 2022 period, the BJP seems all set to come back to power in Uttarakhand. What is happening in Uttarakhand?
Yeah, at this point, we can safely say that if the trends which we are getting right now, they turn to the actual results, then BJP is safely and very comfortably going to form a government in the state, and it will be a historical win for the party, because since the formation of the state in 2000, no party has came back to the government, and it will be for the first time when BJP or any other party will be coming back to the government, and it will be definitely a major blow to the Congress party, because when I was talking to the Congress leaders, they were saying that in all the five states which are going to election this year, in Uttarakhand, Congress has the highest chances. So if they are going to lose in the state, which is very much possible and probable right now, it will be a massive blow for the party. And I can say that even after BJP was fighting against a lot of factors, which included the anti-incumbency factor, this election was taking place after the COVID pandemic, in which we all saw people suffering because of lack of oxygen and all those things. There is massive inflation, which people keep talking about. There is unemployment, which is maximum in the state of Uttarakhand. But even after all those factors, we can say that probably because the voters relied more on the national issues like the national security, religious tourism, and all those factors. So probably that resulted in the win for the BJP.
Avnish, from the Congress's point of view, this is what you're saying, what helped the BJP. From the Congress's point of view, Harish Rawat, who was in all likelihood going to become the person who would be the chief ministerial face of Uttarakhand for so many months in the run up to the election in Uttarakhand, this man was fighting fires in Punjab, where in Punjab, Manraj Grewal has joined us from Chandigarh. We will come back to Manraj on this, but basically they have self-combusted in Punjab. You've had a UPCC, Punjab Congress chief who's turned out to be an arsonist in chief, so to say. So Harish Rawat, in this period when actually he should have been in Uttarakhand, he was actually dousing the fires in Punjab, and now it seems they are on their way to losing both states. So Avnish, from the Congress's point of view, what is it that the Congress went really wrong on Uttarakhand?
See, personally, I do not see Congress being at fault in the state because whether deciding who's going to be the candidate on which seat or deciding their manifesto or making electoral promises, I think they kind of ticked all the correct boxes. But uh, from my personal, whatever I have learned and whatever I have got from talking to the people, the thing is that the national image of the Congress party and the people believing that the party is not doing well in all the states, probably that was a very major factor that resulted into Congress's defeat in Uttarakhand. Otherwise, I would say BJP, like during their entire campaign, BJP did not make any big promises focused on the state. They were talking about all the things they have done in the last 5 years, but not what they are going to do in the next 5 years if they form a government. But even after that, even after Congress making promises like LPG, the cost of LPG cylinder not going beyond 500 rupees, or of like generating a lot more jobs for the youth in the state, or things like better health facilities. Even after all those promises, the voters trusted on the BJP, and I would say that the national issues were more behind that factor.
Right. So the other big blow for the Congress seems to be in Goa. Mayura, if I may come to you. Okay, so we are looking at, in all likelihood, BJP heading to 21, the majority mark in Goa. So, okay, how did Congress end up messing up Goa?
So around December, the Congress had in fact started to turn a corner, and it started to look like it was a serious contender, because until then, the exodus of MLAs from the Congress had given the impression that Congress was almost written off. But yeah, it got back into the fight, and then of course, with people like Michael Lobo joining in, it was taken seriously, and then it also did all this posturing of these affidavits and the oaths that people took of not defecting. But what seems to have happened now is the Congress did pick some good candidates, and it in its attempt to clean up its party, it also chose about 31 new fresh faces. But what seems to have happened now is that the Congress has not been able to consolidate the opposition vote. It's not to say that the AAP and the TMC have split the vote. That may not be the case, but the Congress, the fight seemed more like who's going to be the lead contender against the BJP. So it was almost like BJP versus everyone else. And when everyone else could not come together in whatever way was possible, that seems to have worked very well for the BJP. So it has always been Congress and BJP have always been at the center of the contest here. But now, with so many other parties coming in, this is what people had predicted, that the votes would be split. Although TMC is not really leading in any of the constituencies, AAP seems to be leading in two right now.
And yeah, but Mayura, TMC has not been doing well, but the MGP seems to be doing quite well.
Exactly. So until the latest trends showed that the MGP was leading in 4 seats. Now I think that is down to 3. And the MGP had also won 3 seats the last time. So MGP was definitely going to be decisive in this election, and that is something that everybody knew. Even until yesterday, it was, in the center of this tug of war between the BJP and the Congress. But now the BJP is leading in 19 seats. So I'm not sure if the MGP is still, going to play the part of the kingmaker that it imagined it would.
Yeah. Great. So Mayura, one more thing before I move to Tora and Manraj again and back to Bhupen. Are these elections now, the results are going, I mean, are there any surprises for you, who has been covering the election for a long time now, who had some ideas, you've been reporting in great detail for us in the Indian Express? So what are the surprises that you have today, or are there any that you see this morning?
There are quite a few, I must say, that most exit polls, most political observers told you before the election that this was going to be a fracture mandate. But the BJP coming so close to the 21 mark is also a surprise. And secondly, you thought the TMC, they arrived only 4 months ahead of the election, but they had picked up some winnable candidates like Churchill Alema, who has won from several different parties, but he's a seasoned politician. He's a former chief minister, but he seemed to be trailing in his own constituency, which is his stronghold. And that was definitely one. And I think what also comes as a surprise is this indigenous party, driven mostly by Goa's youth, mostly from the Bahujan communities, that is revolutionary Goans, and their posturing was, such that it was for the Goans, and people thought that they might, eat into certain BJP votes in some constituencies, but they seem to be leading in one, and from what it looks like right now, they might have an MLA in the next assembly.
Okay. So, from Goa to the northeast, Tora, if I may come to you, early days, I don't know, last I checked was the BJP was leading in 19 seats. They need 30 to reach the halfway mark. So, as of now, 12:30, what is the situation in Manipur, Tora?
It's still dynamic, I'd say, because to reach the halfway mark, you have to reach 30 seats. Right. That's the magic number. But till now, BJP is at 21, I think. That's last night checked. And so it's, probably BJP is going to form the government ultimately, but it remains to be seen whether they'll do it with, whether they'll have to, cobble up a coalition like last time. So, yeah. And what comes up here is the performance of the party called NPP, the National People's Party, which is a small party led by Comrade Sangma in Meghalaya. Yeah. And this time they are an ally of the BJP in the current government. In 2017, this was one of the parties the BJP allied with to form the government. But this time despite being an ally, this time they've fought a very almost hostile independent campaign, and they contested about 40 seats. And surprisingly, till now, they're leading in 7 seats. So that's something that's very noteworthy, because it's a small party, and from 4 to 7 seats, it's an increase for them. So that's the other thing to take note of now. Having said that, it's still early in Manipur, because at least 15 seats are yet to be counted. And things may turn, and BJP may end up even crossing the 30 mark magic number. So we have to see. Yeah.
So BJP closing in on the magic number. So takeaways from Manipur: BJP closing in on the magic number, doing well. Conrad Sangma, unexpectedly good performance for a small party in Manipur. Two other things, the Naga People's Front and the JDU, both of them were players in Manipur as well. What's the situation with them?
I think right now they are leading in 4 or 5 seats, and I mean, both of them, NPF, the Naga People's Front, which is popular in the hill districts, they haven't announced a pre-poll alliance with the BJP, but it's likely that they will partner with the BJP. So that way, even the JDU also hasn't announced any pre-poll alliance, but if the word is that they'll also side with the BJP. So ultimately, it seems like the NPP is may be a bit of a problem with the BJP. Not just with the BJP, but also actually, if in the chance the BJP has to ally with the NPP, it may be trouble for Chief Minister Biren Singh, because he has not had a very good relationship with the NPP, and so if they have to ultimately ally with the NPP, they may have a problem. The NPP may have a problem with Biren becoming chief minister. So yeah, so that's where we are at right now.
Okay.
And yeah.
Yeah, no, I was just about to say, Tora, that we've been talking for about 10 minutes now, and we have not mentioned the Congress at all. Now, in 2017, they had what, 28 seats, and in the course of the next 5 years, it kind of came down to what, 13 or 14 seats. So, what is the Congress doing right now? What is the situation of the Congress?
Right now, when I last checked, about 5 minutes back, it was leading in 5 seats. Sorry, not 5, 4 or 5, something like that. So that says a lot about where the Congress is right now. This was a party which was Manipur was the Congress's bastion for years, and from 2017 also it had got 28 seats, but ultimately it couldn't form the government. But from then on, it's been like a downward spiral for the Congress, mostly because many of the MLAs after 2017, over the last 5 years, they've jumped ship to the BJP. And currently, they have 13 members in the House. So it's a very weakened and very depleted Congress we see, and that's probably that's the reason why they are at this stage right now. The former Chief Minister Okram Ibobi Singh remains the face of the Congress, and he has been the tallest leader over all these years. But in the last 5 years, he's sort of not been very present in the picture. Though in the last 2 months, he's been out there campaigning and all of that. But I don't think it really worked, because he's just been behind the scenes, and BJP is right now. Also, we must remember one more thing about Manipur. Manipur tends to sort of side with the party which is in power at the center. So, because the ruling party is where people think, there'll be more avenues or which will benefit. Associating themselves with the ruling party seems more beneficial in a state like Manipur. It's a small state. They look for, developmental funds and things like that. So, so that's why probably, people saw more merit in sort of siding with the BJP, and the Congress seems to be on the decline right now.
Yeah. So as of now, it seems at the end of the day today, the tally is likely to be, unless there's a dramatic change, 4-1 to the BJP. And if I can go to you, Manraj, now, are you here, Manraj? Okay, so there, Manraj is you. Punjab really is bucking this trend, Manraj. Absolutely, I mean, fascinating result. I know you had sort of predicted it in your reporting, and you had been telling us that this was going to happen, and so no real surprise actually. But if you could just sum up why and how this incredible performance of the AAP, how did this sweep come about?
Yeah, so Punjab has been clamoring for change. So, traditionally, there are two parties, Congress and Akali Dal, so they have been alternating in power. And the general perception, what had become now, is that they're both sides of the same coin. So it isn't, even if the Akali Dal is not in power, it remains in power because through Congress, their work would always get done. So when Congress Captain Amarinder came to power and all the charges against Akalis were not investigated, he came to power saying that he will do away with wipe out drugs from the state. He will catch the big fish, that justice to the sacrilege victims, employment in every family. But nothing was done. Nothing was done or seen to be done. So people started believing that, Akalis are still in power, even if they are not in power. So we need a third front. That is where AAP. So AAP did, when they first contested the Lok Sabha elections, in 2012, they did very well. But in assembly last 2017 also, they got 20 seats. And they were the lead opposition.
Right.
And these were almost decimated with 15 seats. So this time around, we didn't, when you went to the ground, people were openly saying it's been 70 years. We've seen both these parties, and they only, their source of development seems to be restricted to nalis and gullies. That's all they do, lay new drains and they lay new roads. What about employment? What about health, education? So, and because Kejriwal spoke of the Delhi model of development. So last time in 2017, though they attracted a lot of crowd, but there wasn't anything that Kejriwal had done in terms of governance that they could look at. Now Delhi is so close to us. People tell you that, every month anybody, a common man saves XYZ in the form of power bills. You have mohalla clinics. Then the education story is very good. Government schools are doing a good job.
Right.
So all this resonated in.
Yeah. So basically, disappointment with the Congress and the Shiromani Akali Dal BJP combined, and the farmers' agitation, which was this. I mean, obviously, the farmers' agitation did not seem to have played such a big role, because none of the farmer party also. Is there something you'd like to say, because it was such a big issue before the election?
Yeah. So it's interesting that what the agitation did was it led to a very questioning voter. So one whole year, you had this group of people, and a large group of people, mass of people from Punjab congregating at the Delhi border. And every day there would be a stage, and they would, tell you the governance failures. They would list the failures. They would tell you that you as a voter bring about change if you ask the right questions. And so this led to a more questioning voter, which is why you had people saying, is this development? This is for the first time that voters were also telling us that, we are not going by the freebies Kejriwal is promising. So when you would ask women that, is it because promised once in a month to women? They'd say, no, poll promises are made to be broken. That's a given. That is a given. But the point is that he is promising real governance, and what we haven't got that till now. So in that sense, the agitation did play a role in getting people together and making them more questioning. And as far as the party goes, the party formed by the farmers. So right from the beginning, people had been saying that you led a very successful agitation. You forced the Prime Minister to repeal the laws. So why should you get into politics?
Right.
I mean, we had a great success there. So why get assembly elections? Right. So they, in fact, out of the 32 farm unions, only 17 first took part in this party, and after that, they now went down to 11.
Right. So then, Manraj, if we sort of move out of Punjab a bit, zoom out, look at the Aam Aadmi Party. Now, Thora was talking about Conrad Sangma's party. Now, you see, this is a regional party which is on its way to form a government in a state which is not its home state, and it has a sort of a model of governance and a model of welfare politics to present to the people, which has been proved now twice in Delhi and on its way to be sort of the voters, the thumbs up seems to be coming in Punjab as well. So where do you see Arvind Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party from, if I can pull you out of Chandigarh and put you in Delhi and say, where do you see Aam Aadmi Party in the national scheme of things rather than just Delhi now that it has a full state with everything? In Delhi, they had schools and they had education and they had health, and they concentrated their work on that. Now you have a full state, as Captain Amrinder keeps saying, a border state, an important state with the police, with everything else. Where do you see the Aam Aadmi Party going?
Absolutely. I think Aam Aadmi Party has got wings now. So the national ambitions have got wings. Now they can look ahead. They're already saying that, we are the next Congress. We will be the real opposition. We will give BJP a run for its money. Punjab is just beginning. Now we will look at other states, and anybody who wants a change, who wants a change from the traditional parties, and who wants to, switch to the model of education, employment, health, everything at pocket friendly rates, will look at us. So that is how they will be positioning themselves. They see themselves playing a big role on the national canvas.
Right.
So we are going to lead, we are going to work very carefully in Punjab. We will make it a model state so that the others can look at it and vote for it.
Yeah. Very, very interesting times ahead. Bhupen, if I may come back to you.
Yeah.
I know that you, in your analysis, in your assessments from the ground, you were not as enthusiastic about the Samajwadi Party RLD alliance as a lot of other people that in the media environment are talking about. So, but there was a lot of visible anger on the ground, was there not? Why did that not translate into support?
Actually, Akhilesh Yadav has been raising. One is actually he was very optimistic also on this unemployment issue. He, the, the youth especially were very angry over exams cancelled over paper leak and other jobs not coming out and all that. So he was very optimistic on that, and he thought that the youths are actually turning up in favor of Samajwadi Party, but it actually did not happen. It doesn't seem to happen because UP is always on caste basis. The election is on entirely entire election is on caste base. So he was not able to mobilize the other OBC. I mean the non-Yadav OBC. He could not. Very late he actually he was joined by Swami Prasad Maurya, the OBC leader Dara Singh Chauhan, then also this Bharatiya Janata Party. But it was very late. I mean, before 2 months or 3 months before the election, they joined. And actually, they are not working. The allies are not working. Even Swami Prasad Maurya seems to be losing his seat.
Okay.
Dara Singh Chauhan is also. So, yeah, so it actually did not work, especially this unemployment thing. Jobs wala issue, and also the old pension scheme, which actually we were seeing that there is a huge number of government employees in Uttar Pradesh. And also when we talk to the government employees, they do talk about this old pension scheme, revival of old pension scheme, but still it did not work.
And also, yeah. So the larger issues, I mean, what Avnish was also talking about in Uttarakhand as well, the local issues seem to have been trumped by the larger issues. The other one thing which I wanted to ask you, Bhupen, the Congress and the BSP. The BSP particularly seems to have lost a significant part of its vote base. Apart from, I think, Mayawati's core Jata vote, there has been some breaking of the BSP vote as well. So, does it appear that a lot of it has gone to the BJP?
Yeah, actually, BSP has helped in this election to BJP in a way that the candidates they actually fielded, it worked against Samajwadi Party because in most of the seat, BSP was the only party which gave maximum ticket to Muslims more than Samajwadi Party.
Yeah.
And especially in West UP and also in Eastern UP, there are seats where BSP has actually affected badly to Samajwadi Party. So that way, BSP has helped BJP in that way in so many seats. So that, but BSP itself, BSP is not, it's the poorest performance of the BSP. In last election, they had won 19 seats, and in this election, they are hardly they win 4 or 3 seats.
That's right. So it's a real two horses. The Congress too seems to be completely decimated. I mean, no, not that anyone had a lot of hopes from the Congress. In any case, even their hardcore supporters probably didn't have that hope. But even then, this is probably down to what, 2 or 3 seats maybe at the most. Bhupen, before I kind of go away to the others, one last thing. Now that it is 12:45 now, we already have a fair idea of what the results are going to be. So, very short. I mean, what do you expect in the coming days or weeks? What is going to happen politically to the SP and the BSP and the Congress? For the BJP, we know, but the SP particularly, where do you think the party? What would Akhilesh Yadav be doing in the next 15 days?
Actually, Akhilesh Yadav is actually was test for Akhilesh Yadav because last election he lost, and this election he was very hopeful to win. But this election he's losing obviously. So in next 15 days, obviously Akhilesh Yadav, apart from blaming EVMs, which he's doing actually for last 3 days, blaming EVMs for that, tampering of EVMs and all that. So obviously, but in that way, Samajwadi Party has gained as compared to 2017 election. In 2017 they had won 47 seats, and this election they are Samajwadi Party is getting at least 120, 130, 140 seats.
Yeah. So even though, yeah. So even though in terms of seats they have not done what Akhilesh and SP supporters might have expected, they will still end up with about perhaps 35% of the vote, and we, in a way, we can see a sort of a remandalization of UP politics again coming back. The remandalization seems to be helping the BJP as well. So the larger Hindutva umbrella, which sort of was really what was pushing the BJP in 2014, 17, 19, that seems to be changing a little bit with this election. Avnish, there was something which I wanted to ask you. This is specifically about Harish Rawat because one feels for Harish Rawat, and last I checked, Pushkar Singh Dhami was also trailing. I don't know if that has changed as of now. If you could tell us. So specifically about Harish Rawat and Pushkar Dhami, because these are the two interesting figures in Uttarakhand. What does the end of today bring for both of these leaders?
No, it's true. Like right now, if you look at the trends right now, both Pushkar Singh Dhami and Harish Rawat are trailing on their respective seats. However, the margin between Pushkar Singh Dhami and his Congress and the Congress contender Bhuvan Chand Kapri is not that much. It's just around 1,000 votes.
Okay.
So there is still a possibility that Pushkar Singh Dhami might speed up and reach and register a victory. But the major problem is going to be for Harish Rawat, who is trailing by more than 12,000 votes.
Okay.
And that, even that to a relatively new candidate who is Mohan Singh Bisht from the Lalkua seats. What makes this important is that in last election in 2017, Harish Rawat contested from two different seats. One was Kicha seat and the other one was Haridwar Rural. And he lost from both those seats. Recently, I was taking an interview with Harish Rawat, and off the camera, he was telling me that it was a massive blow for him, and he was like really depressed by the result. And this time, he was hoping for a victory. So initially, when the second list of Congress was announced, Harish Rawat was contesting from a different seat. Later, he even changed his seat to Lalkua, and the Congress people were saying that he's probably more comfortable on the Lalkua seat, but he's going to lose from this seat also if the trend follows. This will definitely be a major blow for Harish Rawat because this very well might be his last election. He had a major responsibility to prove himself in not just in the state, and had a major responsibility to kind of revive Congress party in the entire country. This I'm saying this because if you remember, after Uttarakhand was formed in 2000, the Congress was in a very bad situation in the entire country. It was losing states after state. In 2002, it registered a victory in Uttarakhand, and from there the Congress party was kind of revived. It formed a government in the central, two consecutive terms in the central in the center. So on that basis, we can say that it is a major blow for Harish Rawat. This, I mean, I do not want to say this, but it kind of shows that this might be the end of Harish Rawat because he's continuously losing and because of his old age. As far as Pushkar Singh Dhami is concerned, the BJP has officially announced that he is going to be the next CM, but in case he loses his own seat, I'm not very sure that the BJP is going to make him the chief minister. We also have to consider that it might kind of dent the image of the BJP because BJP is already battling with the fact that it was unable to give a permanent chief minister to the state. It changed three different chief ministers, and in case it does not go with Pushkar Singh Dhami after they form their government, there will be a question mark on the BJP. But at this point, after a victory in Uttarakhand, I do not see that this is going to be a major factor for the BJP, and they very well might be going for a different chief minister.
On the question of the BJP, Tora, if I may ask you this, what do you think has worked for the BJP in Manipur in the last 5 years? I mean, their plank was normalcy and peace and stability. Now it seems, in all likelihood, that they will be forming the government. What is it that has worked for the BJP and which has got them what seems to be a victory?
Right. So Manipur is a conflict-ridden state and marred by decades of insurgency. Um, so from 2000 to 2015, where when the Congress was in power under Okram Ebobi Singh, this was described as one of the most turbulent years of Manipur. There was, a spike in extrajudicial killings. There would be burns and blockades between Manipur is geographically divided into the hills and the valleys. The valleys where the dominant Meitei community stays, and the hills are where the tribal community stays. So it's long. Both the communities have long had an antagonistic relationship, and there were a lot of events during Ibobi's era, which led to a lot of flare-ups. So there would be like blockades, which would go on for 100 days. So it was a period of a lot of instability and turbulence. But from 2017 onwards till 2022, in the last 5 years, this has come down drastically. I'd say this hasn't happened at all. There have been no burns, there have been no blockades. So BJP has, the BJP claims that they've been able to bring a sense of normalcy to Manipur. Manipur is a place which has been, reeling under the Armed Forces Special Power Act, or the ASPA, for decades, and it's difficult to, at one point it's difficult to even step out of your house post 6 p.m. But right now, when I was there in the ground last month, when I went around, one thing I tried to look at was how Manipur has changed post 6 p.m. And there, it's still a ghost, it's still empty and deserted. But the thing is, people have the option to come out. That fear has gone. And while the BJP says that it's their credit to take, the thing is that this started probably pre 2017, maybe by 2014, 2015, this change started coming because insurgency is also on the down right now. So it's been a very lucky coincidence for the BJP, but they've also they came in 2017 at a very opportune moment for them, and they've basically used this to their advantage. They've said that after we've come, there are no extrajudicial killings, there are no bans, there are no blockades, there's normalcy, people can go out. And their messaging also, like in other states, has been very clever in Manipur. So they launched initiatives which are, one was the Go to Hills campaign, which basically, as I told you earlier, there's been always a divide between the hill and the valleys. So Biren Singh launched this campaign called Go to Hills, which meant that governance could reach to the remote, hill areas and, make them feel more neglected. While on the ground, development really did not reach hill areas. What changed and what helped the BJP was that the perception changed. They saw a party in power who was at least making the right noises, even if nothing really drastic happened on the ground.
Right.
They could see, someone is saying go to hill, someone is saying that, let's do a government sponsored festival in the hill. So, so these are the things which sort of change the public perception of the BJP, and also Biren Singh. And this was in stark contrast to Ibobi, who, despite being a very tall leader, he was seen as a very inaccessible leader. Even his own MLAs in the Congress couldn't meet him. On the other hand, Biren is this guy who's, very accessible. Sometimes he even replied to Facebook comments. So people like that kind of, change they saw. They saw that, this was a chief minister they could connect to. So these kind of things worked. And again, I'm going to repeat myself. BJP is in power at the center, so it's very easy to sort of just side with the BJP right now. And Congress is seen as a party which is already declining. So that's what's worked for the BJP this time.
That's something which you see in the northeast small states. They tend to go with this thing. Mayura, in Goa, we are going to have probably the BJP coming back. So, if the BJP comes back in Goa, it is not really a reflection of the small state mentality that we were talking of right now. What is Goa also is this remarkable state where in the last 5 years, almost every MLA who won in 2017 has switched sides. So I'm sure you will be tracking all day the political fortunes of all of them. A lot of them fought elections. You wrote for us. They fought elections on the ticket of a party different from the one with whom they won in 2017. So one final wrap-up comment from you on Goa. What do you see happening in Goa in the next few days? Because the last time the Congress, despite being the single largest party, there was this major sort of coup by the BJP, and they formed the government despite being the smaller party. So none of that danger this time, is it?
So, from what it appears right now, from the trends, that BJP is at 19, leading in 19 seats. So, it's very close to the 21 mark. And there are independents in the fray who are leaning towards the party. So, if the BJP does win these seats eventually, it shouldn't be difficult for the BJP to form government at all. And the way we're seeing the trends right now, the Congress was, initially leading in up to like 14 seats, but now it's down to 11. And the MGP is also now leading in 3 as opposed to 5, a few hours ago. So it's looking more and more difficult for the Congress to be in a position to stake claim to forming government. But I think also what has worked for the BJP is, its emphasis on winnability this time when it picked its candidates. There was a whole lot of moving around of sitting MLAs, of winnable candidates moving from one party to another. There was hectic political activity starting October, November in 2021. But I think what seems to have worked for the BJP is, the emphasis that it has laid on winnability. It also disappointed a whole lot of its senior party leaders, aspirants who thought they would get election tickets to contest. It also defended its decision, to give tickets to 2 couples in the fray. And as we're seeing now, when we talk about winnability, the Pariyar seat, which was the Congress's seat for the last 45 years, Pratap Singh Rane, former chief minister, he backed out of the election. But the contestant in that seat is Divya Rane, who is his daughter-in-law, contesting from BJP. This is her political debut, and she seems to be leading with the highest margin of all constituencies right now. Her margin is now like 13,000. So this emphasis that BJP has laid on winnability, when it also denied Utpal Parikar a ticket, it shows, it shows Babush Monserrat, who defected from the Congress to the BJP, but now he seems to be leading. So I think the BJP has, very carefully calculated its winnable candidates, and I think that has worked for the party.
Okay, so I'll take final comments from Manraj, because really Punjab is going to be the most talked about later today. One final thing, I just wanted to go back to you, Avnish. The Congress. I mean, you were talking of Harish Rawat. I mean, he is a lonely man today, and unfortunately, if we are seeing the end or nearing the end of a long political career, Harish Harish Rawat really was plowing a lonely furrow even during the campaign. I mean, the Congress did not get too many big central leaders to campaign in Uttarakhand either. So, was that in some way responsible, or could it have changed the election? What is your take on that?
No, definitely there are two, other than the things I talked about, there are two major factors. One is infighting within the partner Congress party, because this is something which has been in Uttarakhand for a very long time. There is one Harish Rawat camp and there is one anti Harish Rawat camp. And this is something which even Harish Rawat agrees to. He sometimes downplays this, but he does not deny that there is such a thing. Another important factor is that if we look at the political rallies done by all the major leaders, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in the state for at least 3 days. Amit Shah was in the state for at least 3 days. JP Nadda was continuously campaigning in the state. Rajnath Singh was in the state, and even on the last day of campaigning, Yogi Adityanath came to the state. But at the same time, if you look at the national leaders of the Congress party, as far as I remember, Priyanka Gandhi was mostly focusing on Uttar Pradesh, and only on one single day she came to Uttarakhand for campaigning. Rahul Gandhi was, I think, just for in the state for 1 or 2 days. So that is something which definitely benefited the BJP, even though we saw much more crowd in Congress rallies. I do not see that has converted into votes. However, there is one small thing which sometimes we forget to mention, is that if you look at the voting percentage, while BJP has 43% votes, the Congress is not that behind and has 39% votes. So even though there is a massive difference between the number of seats they are trailing on, the voting percentage is not that. There is not that big difference in the voting percentage.
Yeah. The perils of the first past the post system, especially in a straight fight. Manraj, final question. I mean, you all kinds of things. Man of the moment, man of the match. All of that we'll see in all the smart people, all the clever people are going to start throwing out. I just wanted you to Avnish was mentioning probably the end of the road for some senior leaders in Uttarakhand. The Akali Dal, it has not done well, and Prakash Singh Badal seems to be trailing as well. What is the future for the Akali Dal starting today, when we are going to have an Aam Aadmi Party government with an enormous majority for the next 5 years?
Absolutely. So it's very unfortunate, but this is the oldest party of the state. It celebrated its 100th anniversary in 1920, December 1920. And today it's with 7, it's leading only on 7 seats. Last time it won 15, and this time they were very sure that they'll do better, that they'll double their tally. They were talking, contest, and they were the first ones to announce the candidate. But on the ground, there's such a lot of distrust for the party. And one reason, the way the party evolved under the Badals. So in fact, Sardar Prakash Singh Badal, who's 94 and he's the oldest candidate contesting these assembly elections, he steered the party out of very tough times during the dark decade of militancy, because he took the middle path, which was which is very difficult or whatever in those days. But after that, he started tilting towards his family. So Akali always been a very cadre-based party. So you would find blue chunnis, blue turbans in the Punjab countryside. And Akali voter would only vote for Akali. But that was because the leaders were mainly from the grassroots, and they would be like these farmers who would get out and hold a morcha in case of any problem facing their village or whatever. So all of that stopped once the militancy stopped and the Badals came back to power. The Badal came back to power, Prakash Singh Badal, and for the first time, a president of Akali Dal made his own son the president of the party. So instead of letting the party decide, he nominated him and he pushed Sukhbir Badal as the president of Akali Dal. And after saw was the party slipping into the family hands. At one point of time, government had four Badals, four people from the family. So you had Prakash Singh Badal, the chief minister, his son, the deputy chief minister, his son-in-law, another minister, and Sukhbir Badal's brother-in-law, Majithia, who is the younger brother, Simrat Badal, also getting an important ministry. And this happened in a brazen fashion. And the very fact that they could come back to power the second time, they thought they will brazen it out, and the public has come to accept it. Whereas that was not the case. Now, after two successive defeats, and this is like a complete rout, he have to rethink. So last time, 2017 of decimation, the party split. There were two other parties were formed out of Akali Dal. So this time again, we'll have to figure out how it goes for them. Now, Majithia is right now in jail on drugs charges. Prakash Singh Badal is losing his seat. He's the 5-time chief. I think the only time he lost in his career. After that, he's won every successive election. Even Sukhbir Badal, he's known to be, he prides himself on being able to manage the booths, etc. So nobody thought that he will lose. He'll manage. So everybody Jalalabad to Badal, and he's I think a newcomer, somebody who's for the first time fighting an election from Aam. Even the against Prakash Singh Badal is a first timer. So in there was this whole opposition, the groundswell of anger against this Parivarwad brought in by. They said they have appropriated the SGPC, and somehow the drug charge got linked to them. That was during their tenure, the drugs became so rampant, and not much was done to them out. So I think they will pay a very heavy price for this. We are seeing the end of an era, so to say. With Prakash Badal. And the party will really have to rethink. Especially in the party.
Yeah. So sobering lessons for a lot of parties. Thank you so much, Manraj, for explaining the situation, and thank you all of you, Tora Agarwala in Imphal, Mayura Janwalkar in Panaji, Bhupendra Pandey in Lucknow, Avnish Mishra in Dehradun, and you, Manraj, in Chandigarh. Thank you all for watching. Please, we will come back to you later today on another edition of the Indian Express Explained election breakdown of what is happening, analysis. There is a lot of other material that you should check out on our website, indianexpress.com, as well as our Twitter handles and our Facebook handle, YouTube. There's a whole lot that is on the elections and everywhere else. Thank you all for watching. Thank you. We will come back to you again.
Thank you.